my excuse for this video being late, and ignore the burn on my nose that I got from taking a fat dab. But it was a nice, beautiful day. Okay? It was a nice, beautiful day. I wanted to enjoy it. I had some errands to run. I technically have 5 minutes to get this video out. So, without further fucking ado, it's time for the UFL Week 7 recap and Week 8 motherfucking preview. And something disconnected. Something keeps disconnecting from my computer. But let's take a look at last week's motherfucking scores. Starting with the Defenders and Brahmas. Holy fuck. At one point, it looks like the Brahmas were going to win this game. But then they choked and lost. But they managed to score 24 points. Panthers just barely beat the Renegades 25-24. So it looks like the Renegades' chances of, at this point, getting into the playoffs and possibly taking the top spot of the division are becoming little to none. Same for the Houston Roughnecks as they lose to the Birmingham Stallions 33-25. And the Battlehawks take care of the Memphis Showboats in a low-scoring affair of a final score of 19-9. So, there are the scores for last week. Let's take a look at how the standings all look, and let's take a look at the playoff picture and preview next week. Gonna start in the XFL conference here. As you can see, the Battlehawks and the Defenders are trying their best to lock up the top two playoff spots in the XFL conferences. They are both 5-2 as of right now. But the Renegades, at this point, pretty much need to win all out and hope that the Battlehawks and the Defenders lose their next 3 games, pretty much, if they want a shot at the playoffs, as the Arlington Renegades are 3-4. And just as I predicted, Brahmas ain't winning shit. They ain't making no playoffs. And as you can see, they have an E next to their name, which means they are officially eliminated from playoff contention. It is now down to the Roughnecks, Battlehawks, and Defenders in the XFL Conference. Moving on now to the USFL Conference. And, well, things are starting to shape up in that conference as well. As you can see, the Memphis Showboats are officially eliminated from playoff contention at 1-6. Let's start from the bottom here. Houston Roughnecks coming in at 4th place with a 3-4 record, still in the hunt. However, with the Panthers and Stallions both winning, again, just like the Renegades, the Roughnecks are going to need the Panthers and Stallions to lose pretty much their next 2 to 3 games. There it is. Excuse me. And the Panthers and Stallions are pretty much going to need to lose all out. And the Renegades are pretty much going to need to win all out. And they have a spot. So, let's preview here next week. And let's also take a look at the playoff picture as of right now. Showboats, Brahmas. Battle of the Shitters. That game can be seen technically tonight on the night I'm recording this. May 16th, 2025 at 8 p.m. Tomorrow night, doubleheader. Actually, tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, we got a doubleheader. Birmingham Stallions and the St. Louis Battlehawks. And then we got the Michigan Panthers and Houston Roughnecks. And then finally, on my birthday, May 18th, 2025 at 12 p.m., we got the Renegades and the Defenders. So, there you go. So, now, before we wrap this video up, let's take a look at, real quick, the playoff picture, starting with the XFL Conference. And like I said, as of right now, the Defenders and Battlehawks hold the top 2 spots in the XFL Conference. And, well, let's just say this week's going to be huge, as the Roughnecks play the Panthers and the Renegades play the Defenders, right? So we're looking at that. And again, like I said, if Arlington wants at least any kind of shot of making the playoffs, they need to hope that St. Louis or DC loses all out, pretty much falls apart, and then Arlington pretty much wins all out, and they could take one of the two spots remaining in the XFL conference. Again, same with the Houston Roughnecks. Who do the Roughnecks play? Let's see. Roughnecks play the Michigan Panthers. That is going to be huge. That's going to be really huge. Because if the Roughnecks can beat the Panthers will only have a game lead over the Roughnecks for that second playoff spot. So, like I said, the Roughnecks need to beat the Panthers, and then they need to beat the DC Defenders next week, week 9. Who do they have week 10? And then they have the Michigan Panthers again. So the Roughnecks are kind of getting a little bit, I'm not saying a huge one, but they're getting a little bit of a break here with their matchups in terms of who they have to play, right? Again, they have the number 1 team in the XFL conference, and then they have 2 shots at the Michigan Panthers. Again, the best way for the not the Arlington Renegades, the best way for the Houston Roughnecks, in my eyes, to have a comfortable shot at getting in is sweeping the Panthers, right? At least going 2 of 3 and hoping the Panthers lose the next 2 of 3. So, Roughnecks fans, you're not out just yet. And I'm going to say this. I have a feeling the Roughnecks have a little bit better of a chance than the Renegades. Let's look at the Renegades here now. Again, 3-4. Who do the Renegades play week 8? They play the DC Defenders. And this is also going to be a huge game in terms of the playoffs for the Renegades. You know why? Let's look at the Renegades matchups. Are they going to get as lucky as the Roughnecks? No, they are not. Okay. So looking at the schedule here, it looks like in terms of the matchups, the Renegades aren't going to get as big of a break as the Roughnecks are. So I'm going to even say it right here. At this point, if the Renegades want to keep any kind of playoff hopes, they need to win against the DC Defenders Sunday. They have to. Because I'm going to say it right here, right now. If the Renegades lose to the Defenders, they're done. They're not making the playoffs. It's over, right? Because, let's see. Like I said, who are the 2 remaining opponents besides the Defenders for the Renegades? They have the Showboats and they have the Baramas, right? And those are 2 of the worst fucking teams in the league. So, if you think about it, if the Arlington Renegades can beat the DC Defenders, then I guess, you know what, I can kind of take back what I said about the Renegades getting a little bit of a break with their matchups. I guess you can say the Renegades get a little bit of a break as well. Again, having the 2 worst teams in the league. But like I said, and the reason why I think that the Renegades' playoff hopes all comes down to the Defenders. Because again, you've got the Defenders week 8, and then week 9 and 10, you have 2 of the worst teams. Those are 2 easy winnable games. The Defenders game, that's not going to be easy winnable game. Right? So, again, if the Renegades want to guarantee to keep their playoff hopes alive, they need to beat the Defenders, and then they need to beat the Showboats and the Brahmas. And again, hope that either the Battlehawks or Defenders fall off a cliff. So the playoff picture is starting to close a little bit. I would say we'll probably know the XFL conference before we know the USFL conference in terms of the playoff matchups. Because the past couple games, the Renegades have been poo-poo. I'm not going to lie. They have not been too hot. Right? So, they got to pull it together. Right? And the last time the Renegades played the Defenders, Arlington showed that they could hold in. They showed that they can make some noise. So, we'll see here. We will see. But ladies and gents, boys and girls, that is going to do it for the UFL Week 7 recap and Week 8 preview. I hope you guys all enjoyed, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace!